Welcome to the Fed to Fed podcast, where we dive into the dynamic world of government technology. In this podcast series, we'll be joined by current and former federal leaders and industry trailblazers who are at the forefront of innovation. Here, we speak openly and honestly about the challenges and opportunities facing the federal government and the Department of Defense and its partners in the modern age, driving innovation and the incredible capabilities of technology along the way. Whether you're a federal leader, a tech industry professional, or simply fascinated by IT modernization, just like us, this podcast is for you. And we're so happy to have you tuning in. Across government health agencies, the stakes are real. Backlogs that delay care, legacy systems that slow decision-making, and user experiences that frustrate the very people we're here to help. On today's episode, we welcome guests from SAIC's Civilian Business Group. Heath Starr, Senior Vice President of the Health Market and Chief Innovation Officer for the Civilian Business Group, Matt Garvey, Vice President for the Health Account, and Sophie Myers, Client Experience Leader for the Health Account. They have lived this challenge from both sides, inside government and across industry. And they're here to share how combining mission expertise with commercial innovation is changing the game. In this episode, you'll hear real-world stories showcasing how AI and automation are cutting through inefficiency, shrinking queues, and turning months into minutes. Well, Heath, Matt, Sophie, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having
awesome
us.
to be here.
I can't wait to dig into these questions, and I'd love to be able to kick it off with Matt and Sophie. You guys are relatively new to SAIC, so I wanted to start with your background and what got you to this point, and why here and why now?
Ladies first.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Great question. So I started my career mostly working with states around healthcare.gov. It was a time when I entered the job market out of college. It just so happened to be the time when that was going live. And one of the big ambitions for states was to be able to have integrated eligibility, basically being able to help one person know all of the things that they're eligible for across that state, and including sometimes federal programs as well. The issue was that at the time, that was such an overwhelming amount of information. We're talking about different policies per program, different systems, different data. The rules were all written differently, stored in different places. And so the technology just really wasn't mature enough yet to reconcile all of this into an awesome experience for citizens. But it's a problem that I thought was so important to solve, and one that even as I went to VA, I saw again. We're talking about literally hundreds of different benefits that the VA offers to veterans. And I remember once my team literally tried to put all of those benefits in one spreadsheet just to get a view. And it was ballooning into rows and rows and rows of something that was hard for us to wrap our heads around and document, let alone actually create rules to make the experience better for veterans. So the problem that really stuck with me, and what excites me now, and really why I came to SAIC, is that I finally think that we have the tools to do something that wasn't possible before. With AI and advanced data integration, we can actually rationalize across programs. We can align these different policies with the right data, and we can deliver a clear and usable view of benefits to veterans and citizens. And SAIC has that technical capability, as well as the mission focus, to make this real for the first time. So that was really just an opportunity that I felt like I couldn't walk away from. Plus, it's super fun working with Matt and Heath and the awesome team that we've assembled here. I think being able to work with smart, mission-focused people is what really gets me up in the morning. And so that was a really big part of it as well.
That's great, Sophie. Thank you so much for sharing the information about your background. Matt, how about you?
Yeah, first, thank you so much, Susan. And Sophie did a great job. I just part of me wants to say me too. My 15 years, give or take, in the VA space, and my pivot or shift from the SDV-USB community, where I've been really for the majority of those 15 years, to SAIC, it's driven by the work that you do when you're a T4 or a T4NG prime. It's wonderful, and we had a lot of success. Brad and B3 Group getting acquired by Octo and ultimately IBM. Great experience, cherished it, wouldn't change it for the world. But you're on a kind of a hamster wheel on these short-term responses. And I definitely hit a point where I needed to, I would love the mission. I wanted to stay in the business, but I needed to shift away from the more transactional nature of VA from a T4 IDIQ standpoint. And again, pivot into a company like SAIC. When I was pretty determined to make a shift, I interviewed, did the circuit with all the likely companies. When I talked to Heath, who's on this call and you'll get to in a second, we're both from the same hometown, KC. We had that bond out of the gate, but there is a methodical commercial solution approach that was radically different than my experience for the past 10 or 15 years. There's a sales cycle and there's a level of intention that was something that I had historically, I wasn't really part of it. We didn't have 18-month captures, 24-month captures on these big efforts because you're so consumed with the rat race of the IDIQ space. So when I got to meet Heath, he walked me through, which I'm sure he'll share, some of the commercial investments, the venture portfolio that SAIC has, and the applicability to the federal sector writ large, but VA in particular.
So
It was too intriguing to turn down. And it's been 9 months, give or take, and it's been an amazing experience.
that's awesome, Matt. Thank you so much for that. Heath, anything you'd like to share?
Yeah, I'll get the red out of my face from all the nice words from Matt, but I'll tell you, it's a little humbling to get to work with such talented folks. There's a Harrison Ford quote in the TV series 1923, where he's standing there staring at himself in the mirror, and his wife asks, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Well, I'm trying to figure out who the old man staring back at me is." And unfortunately, on this call, I kind of identify with that as I look at Matt and Sophie and their experience and their excitement that somehow I became the old man. And I don't know when that happened, but it's a phenomenal team and I'm super excited to be with them. I think what both of them hit on is part of why we recruited them to be here on the team and why we're driving innovation into the space. I'll tell you, I've been here 11 years, and what I truly think makes SAIC special is our ability to harness mission experience and take it and add it to technical expertise, and then drive the innovation through operational efficiency into federal health. As the premier mission integrator, we take that mission experience and the technical expertise and we blend it with an ecosystem. So it's not a made here, buy this, we want this to be the right solution because we're so invested in it approach. It's a little more bespoke than that because every client has a different set of problems. So we create this consistently repeatable baseline and vertical stacks of technology that solve the problems that we're so intimately familiar with because we have experts like Matt and Sophie who have operated in the domain, who have delivered successes with the client, and then we pair them with the ecosystem of best-in-class commercial solutions. And so it's exciting when we're able to take that experience, that expertise, and the ecosystem and blend them together and have the right team with the right focus to drive that innovation in for our clients.
I love it. And I love the culture that you all are talking to and connecting all of those dots. So let's continue with that. You all bring such unique perspectives with experience in federal service and now in the public sector. How can both sectors leverage the capabilities they bring and partner to find solutions to today's challenges? Sophie?
Yeah, I think just again, starting with some of the lessons that I took away from early on in my career is that it's never just about technology or policy. With healthcare.gov in particular, it was seen that technologists weren't talking to business and policy leaders. Everyone was sort of working in their own lane instead of sitting at the same table. And when you're dealing with something as complex as, let's say, eligibility, that approach just doesn't work. And I think the same thing showed up during my time at VA. At VA, there are literally thousands of different systems in use. And that's pretty insane when you think about it. There's no single program office that can modernize that on their own. You need both government and industry sitting together, really co-designing solutions that combine policy expertise, mission knowledge, and technology. Government obviously brings that mission and policy nuance, but it's industry, I think, that brings the innovation and the ability to scale. And so if you just have one side of that solution, I don't think that you're going to be able to solve these really gnarly problems like eligibility. But I think when we work together to really say, like, what is the gnarly problem? What are the policies associated? What is the mission that we're trying to accomplish? And then really pair that with the most innovative solutions, certainly in the commercial space, that's when we're really able to make amazing things happen. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll piggyback on that from a different perspective. This unique point in time, I shifted over and I was super excited. We're going to do all these amazing things. And then Doge and, Susan, I think we've been on panels together talking about just the tumultuousness over the past 6-9 months. And even though there was a lot of trauma in all of that, there were some dark periods, and I'm grateful that we, collectively, both government and industry, seem to be working in a really productive manner to get to the other side of that, seeing the light, getting out of this opaqueness about what to expect. We don't know. The disruption on the federal side, people that used to be my customer have now left and gone to industry or just moved on in general. And the dependence from a federal standpoint on the contractor community, institutional knowledge, continuity of services, it's a unique moment in time. And I think knocking down those walls a little bit and being open and transparent between the groups like SAIC or the other contractors around the Beltway that maybe historically had worked with an SES in the VA space who had been there for 15 years, all of a sudden they're gone. And the ability for people like Sophie, et cetera, to come and still remain in the ecosystem, the ability for all of us to just kind of collectively ensure that there's continuity of services and that things aren't lost has been really critical, really pivotal. And again, answering your question from a different view.
That's great, Matt. Heath?
Yeah, I'm going to come over the top with yet a different perspective. So, Sophie and I both share that we worked on both sides of the aisle. I was a federal employee at Homeland Security when we were standing it up. And I think I got excited and almost enamored with the scale of what we do. And so my first job in the business transformation office at Homeland Security was to take 26 legacy agencies and 200,000 employees and figure out how to make them operate as a single unit. There are very few places in the world where you have the opportunity to work at that scale. And to Sophie's point, the systems required to support that, we had 7 legacy finance systems that had to get down to 1. It's quite the interesting topology of technology. And you have to be really careful not to break something. But I talked about commercial tech in the intro too. You have to be really careful not to just throw commercial tech into that environment because it's not going to work. And it's not going to work the way it does in a commercial environment. There's security requirements, 508 compliance, and a bunch of training that needs to happen, as well as interfaces with all those legacy systems. And so part of what SAIC brings, what Matt, Sophie, and I bring as expertise when we talk about that approach is making sure the commercial tech actually works to solve the problem in a modular open systems architecture. And so we have to sit with the clients and explain that we understand the process soup to nuts, and we have different technologies that can integrate with each other to solve the problem holistically. But sometimes you don't need the holistic solution. You need pieces and parts to plug in. And so what Sophie and Matt and I have been working on lately, our Eligibility Now product, is exactly that. It takes the best of startup tech, where we work with companies like Dataiku to create natural language processing around AI, but then it pairs it with established partner technologies like we have at Xerox to create an end-to-end solution that helps us attack veterans' backlogs and any other adjudicative case that has to happen to qualify for federal benefits. And it's that modular open systems architecture that allows us to apply it, whether it's the VA or the Social Security Administration or a state, to be able to take the combined knowledge that we have, the understanding of the systems topography, where the commercial solutions fit, and to be able to integrate that into the system. And so it's that, again, not to dwell on the same 3 points, but it's the experience, it's the expertise, and it's the ecosystem, and it's making them work in harmony. Because to Matt's point, when you have people who know the systems and all of the resident knowledge is in a person that's been doing the same job for 20 years and that person's not there anymore, there's a risk to the stability of those systems. And we have to be really careful how we adjust them without breaking something.
I love it. So change equals opportunity, right? There's been tons of change. People are moving so fast. The technology is there. It's exciting. So how can AI, automation, and other tools be used to help agencies quickly reduce backlogs, delays, and other inefficiencies to deliver a more positive user experience? Sophie?
Yeah, I mean, this question just springs to mind for me. Just this morning, I was meeting with one of our development teams that's working on a chat assistant that's going to help states actually guide veterans through VA benefits applications. And we're kind of going through the process of how is this done today? And so one of the things that we're spending a lot of time training models on is this resource that the VA offers called the M21-1. It's their adjudication and procedures manual. It's sort of a playbook for claims. The challenge is this document is literally 20,000 pages long. So no human can possibly internalize all of that, let alone keep up with constant updates. And so that's where I really think like AI changes the game. Just to continue with this example, like not only can AI interpret the M21, cross-reference rules and surface relevant changes quickly, but it means that the people that are helping folks enroll can get answers to questions more quickly, can really make sure that what they're helping veterans with, if it's completing an application, the answers that they're submitting are as accurate and complete as possible to really speed up the entire process of getting a claim adjudicated. So yeah, I mean, I think ultimately we're talking about reducing the number of incomplete claims, having shorter wait times, and a much, much better user experience, which is, really important to me. My time at VA was really focused on improving that veteran user experience. So I think AI helps us do that by just really managing the sheer volume of information in a way that humans can't, and presenting it in a way that humans can actually use more efficiently.
That's great, Sophie. Thank you. Matt?
It's the only thing I would say when Sophie was explaining that, we went together. We've had a lot of engagement across VA looking at the use of our Eligibility Now tool. We met with the VR&E team, and we explored the congressional testimony from maybe 3 months ago, give or take. The concept of backlog seems to be systemic. It's not limited just to benefits eligibility, which is its own super complex issue, but it feels like everywhere you look, particular on the VBA side, you'll find these systemic backlogs, and it just comes down to you've got a lot of really well-intended people that oftentimes are working overtime so that the next time that their leadership goes before the House committee, et cetera, the conversation isn't contentious, that they're doing everything that they possibly can. And there's a lot of sort of fluff and hyperbole that I feel like I'm constantly seeing and experiencing just in day-to-day conversation. But the pragmatic use of AI for, the VR&E process, for instance, the counselors that are overwhelmed working with a group of veterans that far exceeds the ratio that's sort of appropriate for a human being to be able to accomplish. It's a wonderful tool to be like a pragmatic, a helpful counterpart, a co-pilot to help them just be more efficient, not as a threat, not as this like super disruptive force that you have to be worried about, but as a practical tool to increase your efficiency in the day-to-day.
Thank you, Matt. Heath?
I'm going to get a little more abstract here, so forgive me, but Matt and Sophie are used to that at this point. There's a Steve Jobs quote where he says he would trade all of his technology for an afternoon with Socrates. And when he said that, he was kind of admiring what it would be like to have a computer that was capable of having the knowledge that Socrates had and being able to interact with it. And to me, that's what we're seeing now. That's the power of AI in the environment. What we've developed, what we're deploying with clients is not forcing them to read 20,000 pages and apply it to a body of knowledge. It's giving them the utility to be able to interact with a body of knowledge just in the same way that Steve wanted to interact with Socrates, and not to study and try and apply it, but to actually ask it, what would you do? How would you do it? And the power and the unlock of being able to accelerate everything else we do when we can interact with historical figures and with bodies of knowledge like that, it accelerates us dramatically. I've had a lot of clients ask, they're like, how fast does the machine learning work though? Like if we develop an appendix to the 20,000 pages and we release it, how fast can the model retrain? And I kind of smile because I'm like, how fast do you retrain the 1,000 people that have to read the manual and then apply it independently in their own way? The model makes it better. It makes the technology adoption faster. It creates consistency in the process. And I think that's the value of what we're bringing.
I love it. I have one more question for you all. Bringing new technologies to the table takes a whole culture shift, right? For people to build trust and so forth. Talk to me more about that. Sophie?
Yeah, I mean,
I know you were immersed in that for the Affordable Care Act.
Yeah, but I will say, I mean, I think what Keith was saying about how we are deploying this technology and the approach that we're taking, it's not a like rip everything out and start over with this fancy new thing we have. You know, we're really talking about leveraging specific types of technology on top of existing architecture in a way that brings results quickly. So I think, you know, when I think about put my VA hat on, like I couldn't trust somebody that said, hey, you just need to start over with this new thing that we have, knowing the amount of complexity and dependency on existing systems and existing policies. And so that's why I believe in what it is that SAIC and commercial partners can bring to market. It's because it can really slot into existing architecture. And I think that's where the trust is built, is really saying like, hey, no, we get that things are the way they are for certain reasons. That doesn't mean that it has to stay exactly the same. But we can show you where those efficiencies are and how you can do things differently and more quickly and so forth, using specific technologies and specific parts of architecture.
I love it. Keith, Matt, anything else to add to that?
Keith, you go first.
I'm excited. I have a prop. I'm going to see if it works with my backdrop, right? So for the last 6 years, I've had this sticker on my iPad. It says outcomes are greater than time plus materials. And so I think as I think about how we implement the technology, you know, here would be my request of all of our clients. Put the risk on me. I want it. Buy an outcome. Do not buy smart hands to set at GFE to try and implement something into the system. I get excited about having to deliver an outcome. And so all of these products and the way that they integrate and the way that we solution things, I would love to live in a world where our clients and our government clients are buying completed claims, are buying error-free images. Let me own the risk. That's why I'm here. And so that's something I've been trying to drive home for 6 years. I think it's catching on. You know, outcomes, people are starting to understand the power of outcomes, but that's why we're here and that's what we want to do.
I love it. Matt, last word.
Yeah, that's really well said. I think going back to your question, you know, the this moment in time and the federal, you know, the government employees and the contractor community, I think about my experience over the past 5 years. I think about working with Sophie when she was on the VA side. And there's a lot of people that were, from an acquisition standpoint, from a security standpoint, you know, FedRAMP, ATO, just dealing with pulling in a net new technology into an agency that is, you know, that like mind-numbing challenges historically. And I'm grateful to be at a place in a moment in time where I've got like enough reps in that space to understand and be able to speak comprehensively to my federal counterparts, some of which are brand new. So again, the collective, like them leaning on us leaning on them, it's a wonderful moment in time to, I never thought I'd be an acquisition SME, but the past 5-10 years have been really helpful in getting a reasonable level of knowledge that I'm now, having conversations with my federal counterparts and saying, oh, that's going to be tough. Oh, this is going to be easy. Here, this is a way that you can do it in minutes instead of hours or days, et cetera. So thank you.
You bet. It's an exciting time. Well, thank you all so much for joining us today. That was a great discussion. And I'm really looking forward to talking with you guys more about other examples of things that you're doing to drive those efficiencies across the board at different agencies in FY26. So thanks again so much for your time.
Thanks so much.
Thank you, Susan.
It's today's episode of the Fed to Fed podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. Your feedback helps us continue bringing you thought-provoking conversations with the brightest minds in government technology. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we will continue to explore opportunities to harness the power of technology and explore what's next in developing a more innovative and efficient government. Until then, this is the Fed to Fed podcast by GovTech Connects. Thank you for joining us.